a reminder that J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio are close friends. J.D. Vance swore in Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. Marco Rubio, now serving as the warlord of Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran, along with half of the roles inside of the federal government, has some fates turning for 2028. Very interesting thing just happened. According to reports, Donald Trump asked his biggest donors about who they want in 2028 as the presidential nominee. And this is something that Trump has toyed with here and there. Obviously, Trump has talked about what the ticket looks like and what it should be. And even J.D. Vance has sort of led on that Donald Trump asks him regularly if he's going to be running for president right here.
And talk about things. He mentioned it probably 6 months or so ago. And
How do you feel about that? And have you talked to the Secretary Rubio about it?
I've joked with the secretary about it. So the president first raised this with me probably 6 months or so ago,
right?
During just one of our private lunches that we try to get lunch every couple of weeks just to catch up on what's going on and talk about things. He mentioned it probably 6 months or so ago, and I mentioned to the secretary in jest, but it feels so premature because we're still so early.
It's such a political answer here, but this is J.D. Vance effectively saying Donald Trump is asking me to run with Marco Rubio for president. And Trump's been out regularly and with Marco Rubio, standing beside him and saying that this would be a dream ticket.
There could be plans for you to be able to run and potentially win a third term in 2028. Is that something you'd be willing to challenge the court to be?
Well, I haven't really thought about it. We have some very good people, as you know, but I have the best poll numbers I've ever had. I mean, I just solved 8 wars and a 9th is coming. I believe Russia-Ukraine will happen.
Well, you said that for 2028, they're very good people.
Well, we have great people. Well, I don't have to get into that, but we have one of them standing right here. We have JD, obviously. The vice president is great. I think Marco's great. I think, I'm not sure if anybody would run against us. I think if they ever formed a group, it would be unstoppable. I really do.
So if Marco Rubio, who's standing there, who looks down at the floor when Trump mentions his name, you see here, if Marco Rubio runs with JD, it'll be unstoppable, says President Trump. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and check in on what Donald Trump just did with the biggest donors, because as you know, the donors really have a lot to say in these kind of scenarios. President Trump is deploying an unusual tactic to gauge who is most popular ahead of a race to be his successor in 2028. Vice President J.D. Vance or Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Trump asked a room of donors at his Mar-a-Lago estate for his thoughts on the top 2 lieutenants one day after he launched the war in Iran. And it was the first time Trump had quizzed his inner circle like this before. What do you think of J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio? President Trump asked during the speech, sources told the Wall Street Journal. Over jumbo crab and ribeye steaks, the attendees applauded loudly for Rubio. The people said the Secretary of State reportedly received noticeably louder applause than did Vance. Oh my. Vance, 41, Rubio, 54, both former senators, football fans, differing appeal. Depending on where the country may be from, whether or not, you at the heart of 2028 sweepstakes. Currently, Vance leads early polling to become the GOP's 2028 presidential nominee. Has this all changed, however? Well, allegedly it has. Look at this. Polling on the likelihood of who will be the Republican presidential nominee. Well, what's this? Skyrocketing result. It is Marco Rubio, who's up 14 points. And J.D. Vance, who has crashed down 12 points. Yo. So President Trump, obviously, things have changed. Marco Rubio's presidential odds hit a new all-time high. Republican donors signal they want him over J.D. Vance. Obviously, this is way far out, and who even cares about talking about these kind of things? But, the midterms are 8 months away, and what happens after the midterms? That's the presidential race. After the midterms, you'll immediately have people announcing they're running for president in 2028. And the 2028 race will begin. So it's not that far out. With a bit of luck, this is the next president. What do you think? Obviously, there's been some very interesting movement for Marco Rubio, who ran for president against Donald Trump. Kind of a savage race. He didn't even need to campaign. He just needs to keep doing his job, and it'll speak for itself. We'll see, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see. Most likeliest, JD and Marco. The strongest, JD and Ron DeSantis. Okay. People are saying, well, that he would be a good president. Marco Rubio realizing he has to be the president of the United States. Okay. Trump asked 25 Republican donors whether they prefer JD or Marco. And the attendees overwhelmingly indicated that they wanted Marco Rubio. One of the people who kind of like shockingly announced that he would be in favor of Marco Rubio is Stephen A. Smith. Kind of wild. Stephen A. Smith, who's gone on a rampage against Democrats, announced on an interview with Sean Hannity that Marco Rubio is the only Republican that he would vote for.
3 people in your head right now that you'd vote for president.
You won't
28.
like it. You won't like it.
I don't care.
I'd vote for Westmore,
You told me
governor of
that.
Maryland. I'd vote for Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania. I'd vote for Marco Rubio.
Okay. Talk about, what is it about Marco?
He's an adult in the room. There is no questioning his qualifications for
If
the
it's
job.
Marco and anyone other than Wes and Josh, you vote for Marco over the Democrat?
Yes.
Over Newsom?
Yes.
Over Kamala?
Yes. I'd vote for Marco Rubio over anybody that's out there right now other than Westmore or Josh Shapiro.
I mean, well, Iran war elevates Marco Rubio on Trump's 2028 succession jockeying. Donald Trump speaking recently about Marco Rubio in Cuba and how Marco Rubio would be a great warlord of Cuba and that he speaks the language. It's actually quite impressive. Marco Rubio fluent in Spanish. Kind of, I guess, critical in our hemisphere if you wish to control the entire Western hemisphere, which we do. Donald Trump saying, yo, he speaks the language. It's going to make a lot of sense. I'm just going to put Marco over there. Win the Hispanic vote? I don't know, man. Here's Trump. He said this yesterday.
Cuba wants to make a deal.
Yes.
What would the United States get in return for that? And why should Americans trust Marco Rubio to negotiate it?
Well, Marco Rubio is doing a great job. I think he's going to go down as the greatest Secretary of State in history. Look at what we've done as a presidency. Look at what we've done as an administration. They trust Marco, and so do the American people trust. He's been successful no matter where he's been. He also speaks the language, which is always nice and always helpful. But he's dealing, and it may be a friendly takeover. It may not be a friendly takeover. It wouldn't matter because they're down to, as they say, fumes. They have no energy. They have no money. They're in deep trouble on a humanitarian basis. And we don't want to see that, but they were very, very bad to a lot of people.